Title: Peter the Rainbow Idiot, Quest for the Stupid Crown. Again, the title of the book is Peter the Rainbow Idiot, Quest for the Stupid Crown. Let us begin. Ready? Chapter 1. Where's Steve? It all began on a warm and oddly squishy Tuesday morning. Peter, a young man of questionable intelligence and even more questionable fashion choices, stood at the edge of Grimwallow Forest and shouted with conviction into the trees. "Go, Steed." His voice echoed into the leafy distance, only to be answered by a squirrel throwing an acorn at his head with startling precision. Peter was not entirely prepared for the day. He wore one sock, a backwards traveling cloak, which he thought made him look mysterious, and an oversized hat that had once belonged to a soup vendor. It did not make him look mysterious. It made him look like a confused salad. "Steve," he called again. "I brought snacks if you come back in the next 12 seconds. This was a lie. Peter had, in fact, eaten all the snacks roughly 6 hours earlier while watching a caterpillar roll down a hill. Steve was Peter's dog, a noble, slightly overweight mutt with one eye, 3 functioning legs, and a tongue that looked like it had never learned how to behave. Steve was Peter's best friend, his only travel companion, and possibly one of the few beings in the world dumber than Peter. Peter, for his part, had recently been tested in the village of Dumplin and was informed with great concern that his intelligence quotient measured exactly 77. He once failed the village's mandatory "Are you awake?" exam, twice. Yet he had a good heart. It was squishy, full of wonder, and often led him directly into danger. As he scratched his head, trying to remember if he had already walked past this particular suspicious-looking log, a butterfly drifted lazily past. Peter was immediately distracted. By the time he remembered he was supposed to be looking for his dog, he had wandered 15 feet into the forest and had no idea how he got there. "Right," Peter declared proudly, pointing in a random direction. "That way is probably not the worst." And with the confidence of a man who had never once made a successful decision in his life, he marched forward and promptly tripped over a root. Face, meet dirt. Chapter 2. Into the Mushrooms. Grimwallow Forest was known for 2 things: mysterious magical phenomena and deeply unsettling smells. Peter experienced both almost immediately. As he stumbled deeper into the woods, still occasionally shouting Steve's name, he passed bushes that hummed, rocks that blinked, and a bird that whispered, "You should turn back," before flying into a tree. After a particularly dramatic tumble down a small slope where he rolled 3 times and got tangled in a thorn bush, Peter emerged into a wide clearing. At the center there was a perfect circle of mushrooms, but not just any mushrooms. These mushrooms glowed faintly, pulsed with a soft rhythmic hum, and smelled like peppermint and mild regret. They were arranged in a perfect ring, roughly the size of a town fountain. "A circle of mushrooms," Peter gasped. "This is either a sign from ancient forest spirits, or someone out here really loves fungal symmetry." He poked one of the mushrooms. It giggled, then sneezed. Peter laughed nervously, looked around, and with all the wisdom of a person who once mistook a skunk for a wizard's cat, stepped directly into the center of the circle. The moment his foot crossed the center, the world shifted beneath him. The sky began to spin. Colors exploded like fireworks. Somewhere, a banjo played a single ominous chord. "Uh-oh," Peter muttered. And then the world vanished. Chapter 3. Welcome to Not Here. Peter landed face first on a hill made entirely of what felt like soft marshmallow and moss. The sky above him was deep purple, the sun wore sunglasses, a bird flew past and yelled, "Get a real job!" in perfect common tongue before vanishing behind a cloud shaped like a boot. Peter blinked. "Okay," he said slowly. "I am either dreaming, dead, or in the wizard's garden again, but this time it smells slightly better." He sat up, or tried to. His shoes were stuck in the marshmallowy ground, which squelched softly beneath him. As he struggled, his hair sparked, fizzled, and instantly changed to a shimmering rainbow. "Not again," Peter groaned. "I was going for serious adventurer this week." You see, Peter's only magical ability, his birthright spell, was called Colorify. He had not chosen it. He had simply been born with it. Everyone in his world had one spell granted at birth. His neighbor had been given Fire Fist, his cousin could teleport, his ex-girlfriend could summon cheese from the sky at will. Walter, he could change the color of things, often at random. Sometimes it turned apples bright blue, other times it made furniture plaid. Once, it turned a merchant's horse neon pink for 2 weeks, resulting in a very awkward legal dispute. But here, in this strange new world, Peter felt different. His thoughts were clear, crisp, sparkling with insight. He could remember his multiplication tables, the name of his 3rd-grade teacher, and even what the capital of Lower Grubonia was. Above his head, glowing letters appeared in midair. Dimensional shift detected. Intelligence boost active. Current intelligence quotient 420. Status enlightened fool. Peter blinked at the message. My brain feels like it just drank 3 wizard energy potions and passed a final exam. He looked around. Everything shimmered with magical potential. Trees danced slightly in the wind. Grass whispered secrets in tiny voices. A squirrel was writing poetry in the dirt. Suddenly, from the bushes ahead, a huge gelatinous creature flopped into view. It had long eye stalks, a wide slobbery mouth, and was leaving behind a trail of glitter. Enemy detected. Lick slug. Description: large, mostly harmless. Attacks via excessive licking. Do not engage with tongue. Peter leapt to his feet. My first monster! Finally! He pointed dramatically at the slug and shouted, Colorify! A blast of shimmering light burst from his fingertips. The lick slug turned bright pink with sparkles, looked at itself in horror, and then collapsed into a puddle of goo. Victory achieved. Experience points gained, +5. New skill unlocked, Chromatic Terror. Description: Colorify now has a 10% chance to confuse enemies with your absurd taste in color. Peter grinned. That was very stupid. I love it. Chapter 4. The First Nap. Peter, having defeated the lick slug with weaponized color and inherited a deeply questionable new ability, continued onward with a bounce in his step. 5 experience points, he declared proudly to no one in particular. If I keep this up, I'll be a legendary hero by next week, maybe even sooner if I find a group of monsters all standing in one place, gently insulting my footwear. The path ahead shimmered with faint glowing arrows, which Peter decided were either enchanted waypoints or unusually helpful worms. He followed them. Then he yawned. A deep, world-shaking yawn that rattled his molars and caused 2 nearby mushrooms to curl up in concern. You see, Peter had a condition. It was not officially diagnosed because he had once fallen asleep during the exam, but the village doctor, who was also a goat enthusiast, had called it probably magical narcolepsy. It meant that at random intervals, especially during emotionally charged moments, Peter would fall asleep mid-sentence, mid-fight, or once mid-meal. I'm sure it won't happen this time, Peter said. Then he yawned again and collapsed face first into a bed of glittering rainbow grass. Chapter 5. The Nap That Grants You Points. Peter awoke 20 minutes later to a chirping flower repeatedly slapping him with a petal. He blinked, sat up, and discovered a glowing notification floating above his nose. Passive trait unlocked, Nap Fuh. You gain 10 experience points every time you fall asleep in a dangerous location. Peter stared. That is both ridiculous and amazing. He now had 15 total experience points, and he had only fought once and napped once. Wait, he said, eyes widening with magical intelligence. What if I nap on purpose? He carefully tiptoed into a nearby patch of ominous-looking dirt labeled Cursed Tulip Field, placed his head gently on a rock, and immediately began snoring. 20 minutes later, danger nap successful. Experience points gained, +10. Total experience points, 25. Level up achieved. You are now level 2. New spell unlocked, Brain Blast. Description: solve any riddle or puzzle instantly with 100% smugness. Peter sat up. His hair changed color again, this time bright blue with streaks of orange. A squirrel in the distance gave him a thumbs up. He felt smarter, faster, smoother, slightly more symmetrical. And, most importantly, he was finally progressing like a real hero. Chapter 6. The Riddle of the Extremely Unimpressive Door. Peter continued down the sparkling path until he came upon a small stone door in the side of a mossy hill. Above it, carved into ancient magical stone, were glowing words. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with wind. What am I? Peter squinted at it. A chicken on roller skates? The words did not respond. He frowned. An angry sock with a secret? Still no response. Peter scratched his chin. Okay, Brain Blast, he whispered. Do your thing. There was a flash of light, a soft chime, and then his voice echoed out automatically. The answer is an echo. The stone door rumbled open. Glitter sprayed from the cracks. A soft applause played from nowhere. Puzzle solved. Experience points gained, +15. New title earned, Riddle Boy. Title effect: gain a small amount of experience points every time you say something that sounds accidentally wise. Peter gasped. So, if I just start making things up that sound deep? He turned to a nearby rock and said, A pebble is just a mountain on vacation. 1 experience point. Peter squealed with glee. This is the best magical world ever. Chapter 7. The Problem with Grilda. Deep within the mossy hill was a glimmering chamber filled with floating gems, tiny singing birds, and one extremely unfortunate woman. Her name was Grilda. She was short, slightly hunched, had one eyebrow that never stopped twitching, and smelled like wet stew. She blinked at Peter. "Are you here to free me?" Peter looked around. "Wasn't planning on it, but I do need a snack, and you look like you might know how to cook." Grilda frowned. "Flirt harder, stranger." Peter, having the social awareness of a bag of rutabagas, nodded. "Right, you're symmetrical, mostly." Grilda beamed. "Good enough." They sat, shared some suspicious trail rations, and Grilda told Peter that she had been trapped in the glowing chamber by a jealous gnome who claimed she had too much charisma for her own good. She also admitted she had never bathed in anything besides cabbage water. Peter nodded politely, trying to figure out whether this counted as a romantic moment. He leaned in. He leaned in. There was a pause. A romantic wind blew. Peter whispered, "I think I'm," and then fell asleep face first into her lap. He awoke several hours later with a cat sleeping on his head and Grilda nowhere in sight. The cat glared at him like it had witnessed everything and judged him harshly. Peter sighed. "At least I earned more experience points." Nap. Mere emotional climax, +10 experience points. Cat-based recovery bonus, +5 experience points. Total experience points, 56. Status, emotionally rested. Chapter 8, Steve the Returner and the Quest for the Pants of Power. Peter wandered out of the mossy cave, hair now rotating gently through every color of the rainbow like a magical disco light. His mood, confused but enthusiastic. His brain, functioning at astronomical levels. His pants, still missing a belt and held up by a stick and hope. The world around him had grown brighter, more vibrant. Birds sang complicated jazz harmonies, trees waved politely when he passed, and somewhere in the distance, a cow was screaming operatically into a volcano. Peter scratched his chin and mumbled, "I feel like the time is ripe for a dramatic moment." As if on cue, a low bark echoed through the trees. Peter's ears twitched. Then, louder this time, "Bork." He spun around, eyes wide. "Steve?" And like a furry miracle wrapped in joy and mud, Steve the dog charged out of the bushes, 3 legs pounding the ground, 1 tongue flapping in the wind, 1 eyeball staring in different directions. Peter dropped to his knees in slow motion. "Steve!" Steve barked again once, sharply, and immediately collapsed from exhaustion. A small notification appeared over his head. "Steve has returned. Companion reunited bonus, +25 experience points. Steve has also gained 1 level in smelling things and 2 levels in rolling in questionable goo." Peter hugged the dog, who promptly licked his entire face and then vomited up something that looked like a partially digested scarf. "Steve," Peter whispered, "you're perfect." Later that day, the pair arrived at a strange, glowing sign posted at the edge of a gnome village. The sign read, "Warning, area infested with panthags. Please do not attempt to remove enchanted pants unless you are legally authorized by a certified wizard or have passed at least 2 riddles." Below that, someone had written in crayon, "Pants of Power, located in Tree of Confusion." Good luck, idiots. Peter stared at the sign for a long time. He squinted. "Panthags?" Another floating message appeared. "Quest unlocked. Pants of Power. Objective: retrieve the magical trousers from the Tree of Confusion. Reward +50 experience points, +1, charisma only while wearing the pants, and 1 rare fashion accessory." Peter turned to Steve. "Steve, I think it's time we get some pants that don't smell like wet wizard." Steve barked in agreement and then chased his tail for 6 minutes. Chapter 9. The Tree of Confusion. The Tree of Confusion stood at the edge of a magical ravine. It was upside down. The roots waved gently in the air like lazy tentacles, and its leaves grew from underground. Several nearby adventurers had given up and were lying on the grass trying to understand geometry. Peter pointed dramatically. "That tree has my pants." Steve barked in a way that clearly translated to, "Buddy, every tree has tried to take your pants at some point." They approached the Tree of Confusion cautiously. As they neared the trunk, which was suspended by a levitating rock, a voice echoed from within the bark. "Only those who answer my riddles may claim the Pants of Power. 3 riddles, no cheating, or I'll sneeze bees." Peter nodded solemnly. "I'm ready." The voice boomed. "Riddle 1, what has keys but can't open locks?" Peter shouted, A piano. Correct. 5 experience points. Riddle 2. The more of me you take, the more you leave behind. Peter paused, activated Brain Blast, and answered, Footsteps. Correct. +5 experience points. Riddle 3. I'm tall when I'm young and short when I'm old. What am I? Peter grinned. That's me when I'm standing on a goblin. A pause. The voice said, Nah, the answer is a candle. Peter frowned. Oh, well, same thing, really. Partial credit. +2 experience points. The tree groaned, shivered, and then slowly rotated like a spinning hat. A hatch opened near its middle, and from it descended the Pants of Power. They were glorious, deep burgundy, embroidered with gold dragons, pockets that looked like they could hold galaxies, and a waistband made of woven spell threads. Peter gasped. Steve sneezed. And then, with reverence, Peter put them on. Item acquired, Pants of Power. Thighs 1. Charisma only when standing upright. 10 confidence, until someone points out the pants are slightly too short. He stood proudly. Behold, I am now Peter the Rainbow Idiot with fancy pants. A passing butterfly exploded from excitement. Chapter 10. The Goblin Conundrum. As Peter and Steve ventured away from the Tree of Confusion, they entered the realm of Ridiculous, a low-level training zone for beginner adventurers. It was filled with sea goblins who couldn't count past 3, slimes that screamed, I regret nothing when defeated, angry toads who demanded to see your license. Peter grinned. This is the place. He raised his hands and yelled, Come at me, dumb things. 10 goblins jumped from the bushes. Each was armed with a spoon and terrible posture. Battle start, goblin group, difficulty, mildly annoying. Peter activated Chromatic Terror. 3 goblins were immediately confused by his neon orange pants and fell over laughing. Then he screamed, Brain Blast, and threw a riddle at the rest. What's green, ugly, and about to lose this fight? The answer, it turned out, was them. Peter used his newly leveled-up weapon, a staff he had found stuck in a cheese log, to bonk goblins into unconsciousness with satisfying boink sounds. Goblins defeated, 10. Total experience points gained, +50. Loot gained, goblin gum, ew, pointy spoon, and a small bag of dirt. Livable up. Current level, 4. New ability unlocked, Rainbow Barrage. Unleash a dazzling blast of color that temporarily blinds enemies and mildly impresses artists. Peter pumped his fist in the air. I am Peter the Mighty, Peter the Colorful, Peter the Spoon Destroyer. Then he promptly tripped over a slug and fell asleep mid-celebration. Chapter 11. The Wizard's Hat of Accidental Genius. Peter awoke face down in a puddle, snoring gently while Steve stood watch with a suspiciously fancy spoon clenched in his teeth. A message hovered overhead. Danger nap, +10 experience points. Snored louder than a nearby goblin, +3 experience points. Total experience points, 93. Current level, 4. Peter groaned, sat up, and accidentally headbutted a large mushroom, which responded with an offended ouch. As Peter rubbed his face, a strange shimmer caught his eye. There, atop a mossy stump, sat a wizard's hat. Not just any hat, though. This one sparkled with unknown enchantments, its brim lined with tiny blinking lights, and its top bent into a perfect spiral that hummed softly like an enchanted whoopee cushion. Peter stared. That hat looks like it could tell me my future, or smell like cinnamon. He crept toward it. Steve barked twice, once in warning, once because he thought he saw a sandwich. Peter ignored both. As soon as he touched the hat, the world went woo, ooh, 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 and he was thrown backward into a pile of rainbow ferns. The hat floated into the air, rotated twice, and then gently landed on his head. Item equipped, the Wizard's Hat of Accidental Genius. His effects. The ES2. Intelligence when doing something completely by mistake. Buff +10, Wisdom if trying to impress a goat. Tie. Hair color enhancement, ultra rainbow mode. Peter blinked. His mind surged with magical knowledge. He suddenly understood theoretical quantum spellbinding, the philosophical underpinnings of goblin slang, and how to make soup with rocks. And then, just as suddenly, he forgot most of it, except the soup recipe. That was amazing, he said, steam gently rising from the hat. I feel like my brain just exploded and reassembled itself using IKEA instructions. Steve gave him a proud tail wag. Chapter 12. Enter the Fartwigs. No sooner had Peter recovered from the hat incident than the ground began to rumble. From beneath the ferns emerged a new enemy, the Hartwigs. Tiny, round, balloon-like creatures with legs too small for their bodies, wings that served no purpose, and the unique ability to emit a stunningly noxious cloud of gas when frightened. And they were always frightened. One of them squeaked. Another one farted and was launched into the air like a sad firework. Peter gagged. "Steve, we are under attack by sentient whoopee cushions." The dog barked once and jumped behind a tree. Battle start. Fartwig flock, difficulty, slippery, and gross. Peter activated Rainbow Barrage. A kaleidoscopic explosion burst from his hands, striking the fartwigs in mid-fart and creating a prism of stench and beauty. Several fartwigs deflated dramatically. One tried to retaliate by honking at Peter and exploded from nervous energy. Peter summoned his staff of mild bonking and charged, whirling it like a man who had never read a combat manual but was determined to write his own. "For clean air," he shouted. Fartwigs defeated, 12. Total experience points gained, plus 48. Item gained, Fartwig feather, smells like regret. Level up. Current level, 5. New passive, elemental stupidity. You now absorb minor elemental damage if you pretend it doesn't hurt. Peter collapsed onto a log, victorious and only mildly dizzy. Steve reappeared with a stick. Hader took the stick, raised it dramatically, and declared, "Let this be remembered as the day of flatulent triumph." Lightning struck a tree nearby in what could only be described as accidental applause. Chapter 13. The Riddlemaster Returns. Suddenly, a shimmering portal opened in the air above Peter's head. A floating mustache and pair of eyebrows descended. Beneath them, a translucent robe. Peter immediately recognized the figure. It was the Riddlemaster. "Peter," the Riddlemaster said, voice echoing with magical smugness, "you have grown. You have answered riddles, defeated fartwigs, and somehow acquired enchanted pants. You are ready." Peter tilted his head. "Ready for what? A nap?" "Because I could nap." "No, fool. You are ready for the final riddle?" Steve whimpered. The Riddlemaster floated lower, conjuring a scroll from glittering air. "Answer me this. I turn once, what is out is in. I turn again, what is in is out. What am I?" Quater blinked. He blinked again. His wizard hat buzzed faintly. Peter shrugged. Key?" The Riddlemaster gasped. "Correct," he whispered. "You may be an idiot, but you are our idiot. Final riddle solved. 100 experience points. Title unlocked, Puzzle Crusher. You are now level 6. Bonus ability, Smart Sneeze. A sneeze that releases a random fact or spell. Peter sneezed. "Did you know owls can't burp?" He blinked. "Why do I know that?" The Riddlemaster vanished in a poof of modest approval. Chapter 14. The Council of Idiots. With newfound experience points and abilities, Peter finally arrived at the edge of the kingdom's capital, Giggletown. It was a city built on banana peels and bad decisions, led by the Council of Idiots, a group of well-meaning but completely misguided rulers who made laws such as, all armor must be bedazzled. No swords longer than your arm unless you use 2 squirrels to balance it. Dr. Has. 6 is maybe paid in interpretive dance, John. Peter marched into the council chambers with Steve at his side, the pants of power glowing slightly, his wizard hat bouncing in place. "I am Peter," he declared. "Rainbow mage of mild wisdom, bonker of goblins, slayer of fartwigs, wearer of remarkably tight pants." The council fell silent. Then one stood. He wore a bucket on his head and a tutu. "You had us at bunker," he said. Another stood. "We have been waiting for someone with the intelligence of a philosopher and the combat style of a confused goose." Peter smiled. "That's shockingly accurate." The council chanted, "ALL, Hail King Peter." Confetti fell from the ceiling. A cake exploded. A pigeon dropped a crown directly onto his head. Quest complete, rule the kingdom. Status, King Peter the Colorful, first of his name. Bonus, throne that farts gently when you sit. Total experience points, 222. Current level, 7. Peter turned to Steve. "Hey, buddy, I think we made it." Steve barked. Peter blinked, then fell asleep on the throne. Chapter 15. The Interdimensional Council of Rainbow Lords. Peter snored on the throne, drooling slightly, as the court bard played a solemn tune on a harp made entirely out of spaghetti. Steve lay curled at his feet, tail twitching occasionally as he dreamed of chasing squirrels made of ham. Suddenly, the sky above Giggletown cracked open like a cosmic egg. A spiral of rainbow light descended, forming a perfect donut-shaped portal hovering mid-air. From it emerged 7 figures, each wearing cloaks that shimmered with every color known to man and several not. A booming voice filled the air. "Peter, chosen of Rainbow, you've been summoned to the Interdimensional Council of Rainbow Lords." Peter jerked awake, crown sliding over one eye. "Huh? Is this about the cheese tax?" The tallest of the lords, a radiant being known only as Lord Hubert, floated down. "No, this is about the multiverse." Peter blinked. "Oh, okay. That sounds more important. Can I bring Steve?" Steve barked. A rainbow ripple pulsed from his tail. "Yes," Hubert said, nodding. "Steve is more qualified than most of us." The portal widened and sucked them upward. Chapter 16. Trials of the Hue Dimension. Peter and Steve emerged into a dimension made entirely of shifting colors, gravity-defying dance floors, and suspiciously polite clouds. "Welcome to the Hue Dimension," Hubert said. "Here you will complete 3 challenges to prove you are worthy of leading the Rainbow Order." Peter scratched his head. "Is one of them napping?" Hubert considered. "Technically, yes. The final trial is a dream duel." Peter high-fived Steve. Trial 1, the Gauntlet of Tasteful Design. Peter had to decorate an empty throne room using only glitter, pine cones, and 12 screaming gnomes. "Oh, why?" he succeeded. "Well, tastefully gaudy," said one of the Rainbow Lords. "Magnificent." Trial 2, the Riddle of Infinite Confusion. A sentient Rubik's Cube floated before Peter. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and rides a unicycle at night while wearing a cape? Peter replied, "A raccoon with ambition." The cube exploded. "Correct," whispered the winds. Trial 3, Dream Duel. Peter was put to sleep with a lullaby made entirely of kazoo solos. He awoke in a dream arena where he had to battle a dark version of himself, Serious Peter. Serious. Peter wore a tuxedo, used full sentences, and drank unsweetened tea. They clashed. Staff versus monocle. Rainbow bursts versus passive-aggressive sighs. Peter won by sneezing a magical fact that broke Serious Peter's will. Butterflies taste with their feet. Chapter 7, King of Color. Back in Giggletown, the skies shimmered. A new title appeared above Peter's head: Supreme Rainbow Overlord of the Kingdom and select adjacent realms. A new throne descended, this one made of swirling color, memory foam, and severed emergency cupcakes. "All hail, Peter," the kingdom roared. Peter blinked slowly, smiled wide, and said, "This throne smells like muffins." And thus his reign of colorful nonsense and brilliant stupidity continued. To be continued,